Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. We got a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. We're going to talk some recruiting. We're going to talk the spring portal window opening, and then we'll give our top 5 cornerbacks of all time. And obviously, we will hit on the Nico situation because it is all over college football news right now. All of that and more coming up in tonight's episode. But before we get into tonight's show, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 6,000 subscribers. Your help with that would be greatly appreciated. Hit that like button. Share the video with all of your college football friends, family, anybody that likes to consume college football content. Send them our way. We'd love to have them here as a part of our chat section. And then last but not least, we have the super chat feature available for you guys. If you guys would like to support what me and Jordan do here on the All In Show, just go ahead and hit that super chat feature, and we'll be sure to read and respond to your question and or comment that's attached to that. And with all of that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up? How you doing tonight?
Good, man. I hope everybody had a happy tax day yesterday.
That's right. Y'all better give Uncle Sam his cut.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Unfortunately. No, but I'm doing good. It's been a fun week for Clemson athletics. Shout out to the softball team.
Man, that was a crazy game last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, man. That Marion Collins.
Yeah.
She's good.
Yeah.
She's like that.
Yeah. It's pretty special when your 2 solo home runs are the difference in an upset win over your in-state rival. So that was pretty big.
Yeah, that was pretty dope. Baseball team continues to take care of business. Took 2 or 3 from Stanford over the weekend. It's been a fun kind of sort of in between time for Clemson athletics because spring football just ended, so now you're really you got baseball and softball still gearing up. But other than that, it's a quiet, dead period. But today, spring portal window opens, and Clemson did lose a player today.
We did.
Yeah, not a scholarship player, but it was. So it was kind of funny. I saw one of my mutuals on Twitter. He posted, "Dang, we just lost a safety to the portal." To kind of bait people. It was pretty funny to see kind of the responses. People were freaking out. Who?
Yeah.
But it was Caleb Nix. So, a key contributor that we were all relying on to be one of the best players on the team this year.
We got that huge hole to fill, RJ Mickens, and the guy that we expected to fill it is now gone. So,
yep.
Back to the drawing board
Might be time to hit the portal one more
back
time.
to the drawing board for Mickey Khan and the safety room.
Facts. But no, things have been good. How about you?
Yeah, things have been good. Busy as always. But yeah, I mean, I got home a little later last night. My daughter had a softball game, so we were on the way home from that, and I caught the tail end of that Clemson South Carolina softball game, which was amazing. When I turned it on, I think they were in the 6th inning, maybe, and it was 1-0 South Carolina. And shortly after that, the home run, her first home run happened. Collins' first home run happened, and then obviously the walk-off in the bottom of the 9th or 10th.
Yep.
Yeah, the 9th was pretty awesome. So, yeah, crazy game to watch. A lot of fun. But, yeah, I mean, the spring portal window is officially open. So there's all that talk. There's the Nico talk. all around college football, which we'll get into a little bit later. But, although spring football is winding down for almost everybody at this point, there's still stuff to talk about, and recruiting and stuff like that. So it's not completely dead out there, but it's getting slimmer. The pickings are getting slimmer for sure.
100%, man.
All right, well, let's give a quick shout out to the comment section before we get started tonight, Jordan, and then we will dive right into the show. Let me scroll up to the top here. John Sarian gets in first tonight. Thank you so much for being here. One of our OGs, one of our moderators as well. Isaac Smith's in here. Jackson Johnson in here. One of our great moderators, one of the great pillars of the Voice of College Football Network. He's always in here plugging all the stuff that we need him to. So thank you so much for that, Jackson Johnson. John, already mentioned you. Who else we got? I think Jacob is in here. Jamarius is in here. And Wet Socks is in here. And that's everybody so far. So thank you guys all for getting into the comment section already. We got 21 people in the live chat. As you guys know, me and Jordan's format, we'll go through our planned portion of the show. And then as always at the end, we'll turn it over to you guys, the comment section. So stick around for that. Get your comments in throughout the show, and we'll be sure to get to as many as we can at the end of the show and chop it up with you guys for a little bit, which is always our favorite part of the show. But with that said, Jordan, let's go ahead and dive into the first topic of the night, and we're going to start it off with recruiting. Spring has officially ended, Jordan, and this is kind of the dead period, if you will, for college football. Spring practice is over. You got the excitement or the anxiety of the spring portal that officially opened today. So obviously there's teams out there losing players, depth pieces, so on and so forth. And obviously some teams out there looking for pieces that they have identified that they are missing now that the portal now that the spring is closed. But the one thing that keeps us throughout the offseason, Jordan, is the constant ebbs and flows of the recruiting cycle. And this 2026 class has certainly been sort of a special class so far for the Clemson Tigers. We remember that elite retreat weekend that came through and eventually, I think, had 8 recruits from that weekend commit to the Tigers verbally. So what is new along the recruiting trail for this 2026 class, Jordan, and what should fans be paying attention to for the people that don't follow recruiting so closely?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of teed it up really well. I think this class has, come together really, really nicely. There's still some big pieces, some big fish still out there on the board that Clemson is very much in it for. But I think one position that we haven't really talked a ton about is linebacker. I feel like that's probably the position that hasn't taken the shape that we all, maybe expected it to be. It doesn't mean that they're not, in it for guys, but they are. It's the board is not nearly as solidified. Of course, you have the big fish, the linebacker Tyler Atkinson from Georgia, who Clemson is very much, hoping they can land. But that's going to be an uphill battle, and that's one of the big boy recruiting battles that it's going to be tough to win. He's going to drive a high asking price, and he's going to take his visits into the summer. So it's going to be a battle. So you got to just kind of sit back and wait and see how the chips fall there. Really, the one linebacker recruit that I think has really been consistent in terms of where Clemson's radar is linebacker Caleb Gordon from Ashbrook up here in Gastonia, North Carolina, so not too far up the road from me. He's a kid that kind of has been. I think he's slightly under recruited. I mean, he's 3-star guy, not the he's not one of the blue chip guys that everyone is talking about, but I think he's a guy that plays really, really sound football. He's not like an overly athletically gifted type of player, but he's the type of linebacker that I think Clemson has done traditionally well with, and I think would fit well in this group. So, and he's a guy that has been very vocal about his affinity for Clemson. So, I think that's a guy to keep an eye out on as we continue to go into these spring and summer visits. He's definitely one of the guys that I think could be close to pulling the trigger. We will see. But that group in general has not really, like I said, the board hasn't really taken shape the way that some of the other ones have. So it's probably a consequence of having a new staff, new defensive coordinator, and a new linebacker coach. And you've seen Ben Boulware kind of get his feet under him on the recruiting trail. So I think that's a position group to kind of keep an eye out on, because I'm not in concern territory, but there is definitely a considerable difference in kind of how the board has shaken out at that position group compared to everything else. So keep an eye on that. What do you kind of think about that? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Linebacker is definitely one of those rooms that need to round into shape, and I think part of that is Ben Boulware and his, him just trying to kind of learn a lot right now. We all know who Ben Boulware was as a player. Probably one of the most intense and high energy, just effort guys that have ever played the linebacker position at Clemson, and truly a Clemson guy through and through. He grew up a Clemson fan. He always wanted to play for Clemson, and when he got the opportunity, he certainly made the most of it. But at the end of the day, he is very early on, and he is very young in his coaching career, and he still has a lot to learn. But I think the one saving grace and the one good thing that Clemson fans need to keep in mind is he's got a guy in Tom Allen that he can go to and he can lean on, a guy that has so much experience all the way from the high school level to a head coach at the highest levels of college football. And now the DC at Clemson. So he's got a ton of experience to lean on there. Not only Dabo as a recruiter as well. We all know Dabo's the closer for Clemson and always has been. But I think you just got to give Ben Boulware some time to kind of solidify his routine as far as recruiting goes for him. He's got to figure out what works for him, what his pitch sounds like, how he relates to guys on the recruiting trail. How he goes in there and establish relationships within those various high schools that he's going into and trying to recruit guys. It's all a learning experience. I don't think we should be alarmed in any way. I think he'll figure it out. And I got all the confidence in the world because he's a guy that is relentless in his preparation. He was as a player, so I assume that's exactly how he's going to be as a coach. That's what he demands of his players that are already in the room. You've heard the linebackers talk about it, and I think it'll eventually translate to the recruiting trail as he hones in kind of his Clemson pitch and what works for him, and learns how to connect with some of these younger players coming out of high school, because that's a bit different, right? And he's an intense guy, and he's not everybody's cup of tea probably all the time, so he's got to learn how to balance himself and then learn how to relate to some of those younger players.
100%. And, I think that is going to be the key for him. When you have a guy that's young and, green in the role. It's, some Clemson fans will probably have some criticism and kind of hearken it back to, some of the previous inexperienced hires that Clemson has made over the years, right. Especially recently. Yes. But I don't view this in the same light simply because I think he just has a much better support system around him. He has an experienced defensive coaching staff around him. Yes. Where you're in a position where you can, take a flyer and make that kind of hire.
Well, and it kind of lines up perfectly because Tom Allen's not a position coach anywhere on the team. So he kind of has that flexibility. Like, you can afford to have that one young staff member on your defensive staff, right? Because you have so much experience everywhere else on the defense. Look at the defensive line coaches. Look at all the experience they have. Look at your secondary coaches. Look at all the experience they have. And then you have this defensive coordinator that has 20 plus years of experience being a head coach, being a defensive coordinator, and at all levels of football. So I think it's, to your point, it's a lot. The circumstances around it are a lot different than maybe previous young hires that Dabo has made, and maybe too many at once. So,
yeah, 100%. And so, like I said, I'm not in concern territory, and certainly the rest of this class coming together the way it has definitely lets you're like, okay, well, if we don't have like 2, 3, 4, or 5 stars linebacker commits at the end of the class, it's not going to be the end of the world.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing to keep in mind, but that's one thing I'm keeping my eye on. In regards to other positions, Jeremiah's asked in the chat about Joey O'Brien. He's a guy that Clemson has recently been really, really picking up steam with.
Right.
He has a previous relationship with Tom Allen, being from Pennsylvania. One of I believe he's a top 50 player at the safety position. Clemson has done a really good job, and as that relationship has started to pick up steam, he has elevated them higher and higher on his board. I think Clemson will be in his top group when it's all said and done, and be potentially, who knows, this is still ongoing, but potentially in a position where they legitimately have a shot to land him. So you land him, and then he also mentions Polo Anderson, who I've talked about a lot on this channel.
Yeah.
A guy that feels really, really strongly. I feel really, really strongly ends up a Clemson Tiger when it's all said and done. You pair him, those two together. This safety class would be one of the better ones that you've had, especially from just a pure blue chip talent standpoint. These are two of the best safeties in the country that you would be adding to your class. So props to this defensive coaching staff, Mickey Kahn, especially. He hasn't had a reputation of landing some of the top of the line safety prospects in the country. He's had a few of them here or there. Ricardo Jones recently was a pretty highly regarded safety, but really Mickey Kahn has, he's made his bread and butter by identifying, some of the under recruited, talented, but not necessarily like the freak athlete type of safeties like the RJ Mickens of the world.
Right.
And so, you pair, he starts landing, top 50 safety prospects. Now we're talking about a different conversation as far as what that means for Clemson's secondary. So,
absolutely.
To Jeremiah's point, he also asked about taking another cornerback. Kerry Adams is a guy that we've mentioned a couple of times on here that Clemson has been, really, really hard after. He just recently announced that he will not be taking his official visit on May 30th to USC. Does that mean he's opening us up a spot for that official visit weekend on May 30th for Clemson?
Hey,
maybe.
Who knows?
So, that's certainly a favorable development regardless for Clemson. And, they're certainly going to try to take advantage of that because they do view him as a guy that they will he is certainly a take. I mean, he's the top 100-ish cornerback. You'll take a guy with his talent level, 10 times out of 10. So
no doubt about it.
Yeah, this secondary group, I think they've done a phenomenal job as far as just putting it together. I mean, you already have Shavar Young in the boat, and already blanking on his name, kid from Texas. It'll come to me when I keep talking, and then I won't be able to go back to it. Marcel Gibson. Yeah, there we go. So, you already have a strong foundation in the secondary. But if you add a guy, you add a Polo Anderson, you add a Joey O'Brien, you add a Kerry Adams. Now you're talking about one of the best secondary classes in the country. So really, really good work by this staff. And we'll continue to monitor that as we get closer and closer to that May official visit weekend, because it's going to be loaded.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to that May 30th official visit weekend. It's going to be huge, and it'll definitely do a lot with, just kind of tying up some stuff in this recruiting class. And then, what Clemson likes to do as well is bring on these guys that are already verbal commits, just to kind of renew their commitment, if you will, just to get back in Clemson, and back around all the players that committed with them and that will eventually be teammates of theirs. So that's always a good thing to kind of re-solidify some of those verbal commits that you got back on the elite retreat weekend. So that'll be good as well. Can't wait to see the fruits of that, because typically that's a pretty big weekend for the Clemson Tigers, and has always produced some really good results for us on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and one more on the secondary recruiting front. I haven't really mentioned him a ton because that recruitment has kind of felt like it's been trending away from Clemson. Samari Matthews, certainly one of the top defensive backs on the board, but arguably the top defensive back on the board. Clemson has at different points held some momentum in his recruitment, but that one is kind of feeling like it's one where he's being influenced by other factors. I think Florida State is certainly in it for him. South Carolina, Texas is the team that's been really trending as of late. I think Clemson will be in that. I think Clemson is in that top group, but I don't expect at the end of the day for him to pick Clemson. So that's, if you're wondering why I haven't mentioned him all that much, it's because I don't feel good about where that thing is trending right now. So, yes. Things can change. There's still some time. I know he's set to commit in August. So, you've got quite some time.
Well, plenty of time.
Things can change, but it feels like he's being, kind of pulled in a lot of different directions. And, when you have a recruit like that, Clemson has not fared well with those types of recruitments in the past, where it's back and forth. This team holds momentum at one point, then another team holds momentum. It just, those type of recruitments Clemson has just not done well in. So, not really going to spend too much time on him unless something changes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of our quick wrap up on what's going on as far as Clemson recruiting, the 2026 recruiting class. Looking forward to that May 30th official visit weekend, and we will keep you guys posted as more information comes out and as news comes out with the recruiting cycle. But for now, I want to turn your guys' attention to partnering with the Voice of College Football. We're trying to get some sponsors for the channel. We're trying to get our show sponsored and everything like that as well. So if you guys know any local business owners or any business owners at all, send them our way. Sponsorship at thevoiceofcollegefootball.com. Get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football. See what our partner Win Agency has to say about its sponsorship experience with us. Let's discuss how we can reach our target market. Contact us today at sponsorships@VOCFB. That's sponsorships@VOCFB. I'm going to put that in the chat for you guys. If any of you guys are interested, if you have your own business, just reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to partner with you. All right, Jordan, as everybody knows around college football, spring's winding down, spring games are over, spring practice is done, and that infamous spring portal window has finally opened. It opened today, was the official day. Obviously, people have put in their names long before today, which they're able to do, but it officially opened today, so transfers can officially start going down today. Obviously, Clemson has lost now 2 players via the spring transfer portal. Tavoy Fegan ended up committing to Ole Miss today. And then obviously Caleb Nix, Bo Nix's brother,
Yes.
entered the portal today and is yet to find a landing spot. This is always an interesting time of year because you're anticipating, how many guys are going to hit the portal. You start looking at the depth chart, how congested are certain rooms, what's playing time going to look like. And it's always an anxiety and also fun-filled time, I think, in the spring portal because, if you lose certain pieces, you got to go back into the portal and find somebody to replace them because there is no high school recruiting. But obviously, portal opened today, April 16th, and it closes April 25th, correct? 10 days? I think I got that right. I think it closes April 25th, a 10-day portal window. Jordan, what's your thoughts on Clemson? Have any of I know we talked about Tavoy Fegan already, but does any of our 2 portal losses surprise you in any way? Do you think Dabo is looking in the portal for any specific position group? Do you think he'll go to the portal and add a piece or 2? What do you think the spring portal window realistically looks like for the Tigers? And have we seen all the people that are going to leave, or do we anticipate a couple more people entering the transfer portal during this spring window?
Yeah. As far as Tavoy Fegan is concerned, we've talked about it. We talked about it last week. I mean, that did not come as a surprise to the staff. I don't think. Happy he found a home. And I hope I wish him the best. But I definitely think the staff was prepared for this for a while. As where it stands right now, I don't expect Clemson to be, portal shopping. They might be portal. I don't know. Browsing is probably not the right word. Kind of keeping an eye on it. I don't think this is the last player to leave Clemson.
Yeah.
Certainly, there certainly are reasons behind the scenes that I definitely think that you could be losing 1 or 2 more. But it's at the end of the day, I think the staff feels really good about where the roster is, and I don't think there's any pending departure that I think would really shake up kind of what their plans are as far as the roster is concerned. I think the guys that you have on the roster want to be here for the most part, and I think it's going to stay that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't anticipate this mass exodus from Clemson this spring. You also have to consider that we don't really know what the roster requirements are going to be come fall camp and the first game of the season, right? Does the House settlement go through and teams have to go down to the 105, or what happens with that? I'm sure that will influence some of Dabo's decision as well. It's kind of hard to plan when it's so uncertain. But I think Dabo made it pretty clear in his post-spring game presser that he was pretty happy with where the team was. I think at that time he probably already knew, as we mentioned last week, that Tavoy Fegan was leaving. And, although Caleb Nix is a loss via the transfer portal, no disrespect to him at all, I don't think that really affects the safety room whatsoever at Clemson. I think there's plenty of guys there that were ahead of him, and it doesn't really do anything other than there's one less guy on the roster, which if the roster is going to get cut may not be such a bad thing, right? Getting down to that 105. I don't think you're going to see any big names entering the transfer portal, I guess is what I'm trying to say, from Clemson in the near future, or at least during this spring portal window. So I think our roster largely will look exactly like it looks today heading into fall camp.
Yeah, but 100%. But, things can change. Obviously we could be talking here next week and have our foot in our mouths, but I really don't anticipate it. Did you see Miami? Miami got gutted today. Cal and Miami had like one of the worst days I've ever seen.
Did they?
Yeah, I mean, let's see. I can't think of all the players that they lost, but I know Miami. They lost Nikar. They lost. No, Nikar was the receiver. They lost I think they lost a defensive line, an edge rusher, or an interior defensive lineman that they were expecting to be a contributor.
Josh Horton.
Yes.
Zaquan Patterson.
Forgot about him. Clemson was in on him
Rudolph
in his recruitment.
Yeah. So they lost 2 defensive linemen, a wide receiver, and a safety today. 4 guys. That's tough. Yeah.
Cal lost 5 running backs or 4 running backs. I can't remember which one it was. Something crazy like that.
Let me see what they got.
And they lost. The big one was Jaden Ott, but like they lost like their entire
Byron Cardwell, Mason Sterling. Let's see, who else did they lose? Kadarius Callaway. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I think they had 5 scholarship running backs on the roster and lost 4 of them within the span of a couple of days.
No, hold up now. They might have lost more.
Did they lose 5?
Justin Williams Thomas. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.
Dude. That's crazy, man. I've never seen an entire position room basically leave a school at one time. I
guess that speaks volumes. I guess I don't know what's going on there, but wow, you'd think somebody would have stayed and been like, "Well, I'll just be the last one standing and get some playing time."
Yeah, like right.
But geez,
guess not. They didn't. Nobody wants to live in Berkeley, I guess.
I wouldn't want to. I don't know. That's just me. But anyways, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Cal getting hit hard, Miami getting hit hard. But again, I think Clemson is going to be okay when it comes to the spring portal. I'm not too terribly worried.
No,
not too terribly worried.
Somebody mentioned Branson Robinson earlier in the chat. Might have been John. Yeah, he entered the portal today. He named Clemson as one of the teams he was interested in. I don't have any reason to believe that Clemson is looking at.
Dad really got no interest in it.
Yeah,
he's not bringing in a running back. I don't think so.
Yeah, no. It's a shame. I wanted Branson Robinson out of high school. Clemson wanted him really badly out of high school.
He's been hurt, man, like his whole time at Georgia, though. So yeah. I don't know if we need to bring in another injury-prone running back.
Yeah,
we got
it doesn't seem to make sense. It wouldn't really make sense at this point. I mean, no. If they did go and get him, I wouldn't be upset by any means. Like, hey, that's more depth and honestly a guy that, if healthy and with time, could become a starting, star caliber running back. That's what he was viewed as out of high school. One of the best high school running backs we had seen in the last several years.
Yeah.
Just really dominant tape. Dude is massive. Like nobody. I'm not tackling that guy.
Definitely not.
That's just kind of not how it's played out for him over his career. He just couldn't stay healthy and was never really able to crack into the rotation the way that people expected him to when he was coming out of high school. So I don't know. I wouldn't expect Clemson to really entertain that, but and there certainly have been players, higher caliber players, that have reached out to Clemson in the past that Clemson said no to when they felt good about where they were. So it would surprise me if they did it here.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be adding any running backs.
Yeah.
Doubt that. All right, make sure you catch Clemson live on all your favorite audio streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast, wherever you consume your podcast from. Just search Clemson Live. All of our long-form content is on there, all of our shows. Everything is on there. So if you're on a long trip, if you're working out, if you're on a walk, if you're on a run, wherever and whenever you like to listen to your podcast, go check us out. Search Clemson Live, and all of our content from the channel will be on there for you to consume. Give us a rate, view, subscribe over there, and that would be greatly appreciated. All right. This has been a massive story in college football for a little bit now. Tennessee has been in the news cycle. Nico, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. We're just going to call him Nico.
Everybody Nico, I'm leaving.
Yeah. Wait, I'm about to leave you. Yeah. Yeah. Nico, former Tennessee quarterback, obviously was in the news about holding out of practice, the practice before the spring game. And then ultimately, obviously, Tennessee and Nico parting ways. There's a couple different storylines out there, if you will, on how that happened, whether Nico informed the offensive coordinator on Thursday that he was not going to be returning to Tennessee, or whether the decision was made on Friday by Tennessee and the coaching staff and the powers that be there, that they were going to move on from Nico. Obviously, each party's going to tell you the version that makes them look the best. So Tennessee's going to say, hey, we told Nico we're moving on. Nico's going to say, hey, I told Tennessee I was moving on, right? Regardless of the situation, I do think that this will have some ramifications as far as the college football as a whole goes, maybe NIL goes, and kind of how some of this stuff is done in the future. This has obviously got everybody's attention in college football. We've never really seen anything like this before, but I highly doubt this will be the last time that we see something like this, nor do I think other things like this haven't already been going on, but they just haven't hit the news quite like this Nico and Tennessee thing kind of blew up and kind of hit the news in a huge way in a time where there's not a whole lot going on in college football, so everybody's paying attention to what little bit of news is out there. So, Jordan, tell the people, what effect do you think this entire situation will have on college football as a whole, the whole NIL thing, and just kind of your opinion on, how this went down? And, it's just not a good look. And really nobody wins in the end. I don't think Nico wins because he's kind of public enemy number one for definitely all the Tennessee fans, but a lot of college football fans out there. And then obviously Tennessee doesn't win. Maybe people applaud them for standing up, quote unquote, and telling Nico no and sending him along his way. But you're now through your entire spring and you don't have a starting quarterback. So they don't win either. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit on it. I mean, this is kind of a situation where there's not really any winners. And, it's easy to be like, okay, good for Tennessee. I'm glad they did what they did. But, they're the reason this happened in the first place. They they were one of the first teams to publicly, not necessarily publicly, but it was well out in the open when Nico was coming out of high school that they had given him a $8 million NIL deal, give or take. And That's sparked a lot of discourse, a lot of controversy about, paying these large NIL sums to unproven high school prospects. And now you're seeing it become a regular. Obviously, the most recent example being Bryce Underwood in Michigan. Like, I want to believe that this situation is going to be kind of a learning moment for college football, that, hey, you're putting a lot of stock and a lot of money into a high school kid that has not played a snap of football for your university. And now, you've basically tied yourselves to them financially and just as far as the future of your team goes. Like, this was not how Tennessee thought this whole thing would play out. And now you're in a situation where you've gone through your entire spring without a quarterback. You've got $8 million freed up, but what are you going to do with it? There's not any good quarterback options, making themselves available right now in the transfer portal. And the quarterback options that you've signed out of high school are not, I wouldn't characterize them as ready. Like, I mean, who's next up in that room? Like Jake Merklinger?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the guy right now, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless they get somebody in the portal. I mean, and then if you go get somebody in the portal, let's think about that. You go grab somebody in the portal. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah.
You're coming in summer when there can be no official practices and stuff like that, and you're going to roll right into fall camp. That's, I don't know. That's tough. That's tough. That's not a good situation to be in. If you're a Tennessee fan, I mean, I'd be pissed.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
so I would be too, and I would feel the same way. I even, when it happened, I tweeted, I was like, well, it makes you appreciate having a guy like Kay Klubnik even more, a guy that certainly could have made hefty NIL demands after the numbers he put up last season, but he said, I'm coming back. Obviously Cade is being very well compensated. So don't get me wrong.
right.
But he's not commanding $4 million this year. Probably closer to half of that, but a little over half of that. But like, he could definitely had better numbers and had more of a grounds to stand on than Nico, who he had 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks,
right. It wasn't like he
touchdowns.
had this. It wasn't like Nico went out and had this like breakout season where he was, he wasn't the reason that Tennessee was as good as they were this past season, right? Like, it was largely their running game that got them offensively to where they went, right? He wasn't this like just amazing quarterback. Not that he was terrible, but he certainly wasn't like this $4 million quarterback, because those are the numbers being reported, right? Like, I mean, that's a bold move to go out and have a pretty average season as far as a college football quarterback goes, and then demand that your pay gets, I don't know, doubled. I mean, that's crazy to me. Yeah. But then again, money clouds people's judgment, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. And they absolutely, dug this hole for themselves. And this is the kind of thing you open yourself up to when you are willing to pay out the ass out of high school. It is what it is. Like, I'm happy these players are being compensated, but at a certain point, there has to be some value judgments here. Do I really need to promise $8 million to a kid that has not played a snap of football for me?
Absolutely. Yeah. At a certain point, you gotta evaluate it and be like, I get it, but you're a high school senior, and you've never played a snap of college football. So respectfully, no, we're not going to give you $8 million guaranteed. But again, you kind of saw something like this coming, I guess. Although I never thought it'd quite be like this or this public, or get to the point where somebody was holding out of spring practices and a spring game trying to negotiate a contract. And then you hear the reports of, this came up last December during the playoffs, and talking about holding out of, playoff games. Whether that was true or not, I don't know, obviously. But I'm just, speaking on stuff that has been reported since all this stuff hit the news cycle. But thinking of guys using playoff games as leverage to get more NIL is like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of why NIL has to be reined in a big way. Like why this house settlement has to come through with some of these, rules and just guardrails over NIL, because NIL is not NIL right now. Like we we keep saying NIL because that's just what we've called it in college football so far, right? But really all it is legal pay for play now. So like all the quote unquote McDonald's bags and the drop man and all that stuff that used to be rumored in college football for so long, happening in the shadows behind the scenes. Now it's just all out in the open and legal, right? A donor, or a rich person that's a fan of a university can pay so and so whatever amount of money they want to come play for that university, right? That's not NIL. That's pay for play, right? So it's got to be reined in. Hopefully, somehow we get to a point where this is not the world of college football that we live in, and there's a little bit more guardrails and sanctions and rules and regulations put on it. But as of right now, there's nothing preventing this stuff from happening, and there needs to be, because this isn't what college football is, and I don't think this is what any college football fan ever wanted it to become. But NIL is not going anywhere, but we do have to figure out a way to kind of get rid of some of the stuff that's going on.
Yeah. That's why I think this is something that I don't think, the sport is going to learn from, because because of what you said earlier.
Yeah.
They can, all it takes is one school be willing to, one donor. It doesn't matter who it is, to X 5-star quarterback, next year, commanding $3-4 million, straight out of high school. I mean, all it takes is one donor or one school that's desperate enough. Or
that's right. All it takes is one rich guy or a group of rich people, right? To go to a university, or to go to the powers that be at their university, the head coach or whatever, and be like, hey, what's it going to take to get a national championship? How much?
Yep.
All right, go get them. Here's the money, right? Like there's no guardrails on that right now. And that to me is not college football, right? So I would like to see that stuff completely done away with. Like pay for play has no place in college football, in my opinion. Like we don't need that in college football. Legitimate NIL deals, yes. You go sign X amount of autographs and make X amount of money, right? Yeah. You go appear in a Dr. Pepper commercial and they pay you X amount of money, yes. That has a place in college football. But just rich donors buying players, like that's not what we want. That's not what I want. I can't speak for everybody. That's not what I want to see in college football. That's crazy to me. And the fact that that's the world that we currently live in is wild. And this is just one example of all the stuff that goes on around the country all the time now at all these universities. Yep. This was just a big blow up in your face moment of an example of what NIL has become in college football.
And on the quarterback front, and kind of tying it back to Clemson, I think you're seeing kind of in their recruiting efforts at that position, that understanding of, okay, we're not going to. I don't see Clemson ever getting a Trevor Lawrence caliber prospect in this era of college football. Like,
nope,
going to demand too high of an asking price. I just mentioned Bryce Underwood earlier. Like, there is no way Clemson is going to pay Bryce Underwood what Michigan. I mean, Clemson didn't even offer. They weren't even after Bryce Underwood. But I'm just using him as an example.
Yeah.
And you've kind of seen how they've adjusted their recruiting strategy at that position. I love Tate Reynolds as a prospect, but he's not he's not a generational prospect. I mean, so it's like you have to go get the guys that aren't going to rob you blind in terms of asking price, and guys that fit your system, that are, and maybe they don't come in and they're ready to play as a true freshman, but a guy that you can develop over the course of 3+ years, and get him ready to go. Like, that's what Clemson had. They have to really lean into that developmental model, especially at that position, because the asking price is just so high for these 5-star quarterbacks. I mean, you're just flat out not going to compete with some of those numbers. Like, I mean, Clemson has done a lot better NIL wise. This roster that you're bringing into this season is very well compensated, but at the end of the day, like, the funds aren't unlimited. Where you just can't do what some of these other schools are doing. You don't have that that war chest of funds that Michigan is slinging around right now, or Texas, or name the school, Ohio State. Like, you're just not going to match up to those more often than not.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely from the Clemson angle, what you brought up is, in this day and age, we would have never had a Deshaun Watson. We would have never had a Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
those quarterbacks would have never came to Clemson. We probably wouldn't have had a DJU, although that didn't pan out. But, like, you wouldn't have had him either. So it's crazy, the world of college football that we live in. But at the end of the day, to your point, like, you got to lean into, we are a developmental program, and that's what Dabo's kind of preached, and that's what Clemson's been for the longest time, and kind of been their model. And they're just going to have to, like, you got to go out on the recruiting trail, and you got to not miss, right? And if you do miss, you're going to go through it for a little bit, right? Because you're right, the money's not unlimited, and it doesn't automatically refill when you spend it, right? Donors have to recommit the money again and again, over and over and over again. And, I don't know what that feels like, because I don't have money like that to throw around, right? But I would imagine these donors eventually start being like, all right, now, like, how much I'm giving to IPTAY, now I'm giving to a 110 Society, we're giving for this building project, we're giving for that. Like, eventually people get tired of, the constant handout asking for money, right? And it seems like donors, fans, and everything like that foot a lot of these big bills when it comes to college football, and not enough of it is regulated as it should. So, yeah, we're going to see, man. I don't know. I don't think stories like this, I don't think Nico will be the only player that tries something like this. Will it go as public as what happened with Nico? I don't know. Maybe that's unique to the quarterback position, or, maybe just other universities have been better at keeping it, at bay, or they just gave the money. They just gave into the demand. But I guarantee you, he wasn't the first one to try to pull something like this, and he's certainly not going to be the last one until this stuff's reined in college football. And I can't wait for the day. Hopefully, I pray for the day that they rein some of this stuff in, because to me, this is nothing of what college football used to be, or was, or what really makes college football fun and great and interesting to watch. This is This is like NFL stuff where they're like holding out and not going to mini camp and they're holding out for a season or whatever. Like, this is NFL stuff, man. We got to get rid of this in college football. I like college football and casually watch the NFL for a reason, right? But I don't know. I just hope they get it reined in some way, somehow.
Yeah. Did you see? And you saw Nico's dad, acting the fool on Twitter. When this news was breaking down, was coming out. He called Pete Nikos all sorts of words.
Call that man all sorts of words
for reporting the truth.
Yeah, for reporting what was true. So you got mad at this man for reporting the truth, and then it was confirmed that it was true, and then you go radio silent. Like, what are we doing, man? Come on.
And I think that kind of speaks to just kind of, just to kind of wrap this whole thing up. I think some of this could be curbed if, these players weren't surrounded by so many bad actors. And sometimes it's their own flesh and blood that are steering them astray. It's a lot of times it's not the player themselves that's making these demands or pushing the envelope this way. It's the people around them that are trying to get a cut of what that particular player is worth. And sometimes it's your own family. And these people have a lot of them have no business representing any type of professional athlete in or any type of athlete in a professional setting. These agents, like in the NFL, you have agents who do that as a living, for a living. They have rules that they go by. They have ethics and morals to a degree that they go by. Like, there are practices that you just don't do. Like, there's an understanding in that industry, but within the college football space, anybody can be an agent. There's no sort of vetting process. There's no standard by which they operate by. I could walk up to this a 5-star kid in my area and be like, "Hey, I want to represent you,"
Right.
And I could make up some BS credentials or twist something that I've done in the past to be like, I'd be good to represent you in your financial interests. But like, that's the kind of reality that some of these players are in, and kind of what spearheads a lot of this this craziness that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, look, I mean, and that's kind of a part that maybe not many people are talking about as much, but you do have to keep in mind that although these people are, these players are of legal age and they are adults, and yes, they are responsible for their own decisions. It is tough when you're that young and you have people, for instance, in this situation, your dad that has been with you your whole life, right? And you're getting that counsel, and it's obviously turning out to not be the best counsel, right? And then to your point, you got other bad actors that are preying upon these athletes and, just trying to get a piece of, what they're going to gain from their athletic ability, right? And it's truly sad. And I think that's something else that needs to be, looked into to protect young athletes from the bad actors that you're referencing. So I don't know. It's crazy. This whole situation's crazy. And it's just a perfect snapshot of a lot of what's wrong with college football right now.
100%.
All right, guys, make sure you're checking us out on all the socials. The Voice of College Football is on Twitter. We are on Instagram. Check out the Twitter page. I got it up on the screen right now. The Voice of College Football official account right here. Go give us a follow for the best discussion, debate, and analysis with no offseason We post our weekly live schedule on here, so you won't miss any of the shows. We also post other college football content on there, so go check it out. Give it a follow. And then I'll show you guys, we got a much newer than our Twitter page is our Instagram page. If you guys are on Instagram, go give us a follow over there at the Voice of College Football Network. Post a bunch of stuff over there as well, trying to grow it as best as possible over there. So just go check out the page over there and give us a follow, trying to grow all the social medias. So your guys' help with that will be greatly appreciated. All right, before we move into the last topic of the night, we got 30 people in the live chat right now. Please go ahead and hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Me and Jordan do the All-In Show right here every Wednesday, 8 p.m. And stay tuned with us through the last topic of the night, and then we'll turn it over to you guys, the comment section. But Jordan, we have been doing these top fives for quite a few weeks now. We just got finished with defensive tackles last week. Now we're going to move on to the top 5 cornerbacks all time for the Clemson Tigers. You guys in the comment section, like I always say, I'm sure you guys will 1,000% agree with our list because you guys always agree with all of our lists, right? But get some names in the comment section. Give me your top 5. You can list them 1 to 5. You can just throw them out there. They don't have to be in any particular order, but just off the top of your guys' head, who's the top 5 cornerbacks to ever strap it up for the Clemson Tigers? Jordan, who you got?
All right, we're gonna do what we've been doing. Just kind of
we'll just throw a bunch of names out there, and then once we get to a good stopping point, we'll just figure out our ranking from there. I think that's been working the best.
Yeah, that works for me. Okay, when this is going to be another tough one because there are a lot of names that are probably we're going to mention and are going to have to be cut. But I'll start with one that I think a lot of people think of, especially in recent memory, as far as Clemson quarterbacks. We're going to go with Mackenzie Alexander. All-American. He was here for a short time, but his impact in the couple of years he started was unbelievable. One of my favorite players, period, that I've watched in my time being a fan. Just one of the rare just mentality type cornerbacks where he is just like that guy believed he could cover anybody. And he would tell the opposing wide receiver that I remember that that playoff game against Oklahoma, him going back and forth with Sterling Shepard, that was must see TV. That was beautiful. I wish he was able to play in that national championship game. I feel like maybe that game plays out a little bit differently, but still one of the best corners I've seen lace it up for the Tigers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was fun to watch, and definitely a big part of those national championship runs. All right, I'm gonna get my first one here. Let's see. I'm gonna go a recent guy as well. It'll probably get a little bit older from here, but first guy I'm gonna mention, his brother's actually on the team right now, but AJ Terrell. I think is a guy that you have to mention when you're talking about cornerbacks at Clemson. The dude was absolutely insane. Just a quiet guy, I guess, but just a dog out there, just about his business, and just one of those guys that, not very many quarterbacks wanted to go after. So he's definitely on my list. AJ Terrell finished his career with a 107 tackles, 20 pass breakups, and 6 interceptions to go with 2 forced fumbles. Just a pretty incredible career for AJ Terrell. And now he's balling out for the Atlanta Falcons right now and getting paid a whole bunch of money to do it. So shout out.
Yes,
AJ.
he is.
Shout out AJ Terrell.
Another obvious pick, two-time national champion. Actually, no, he was.
And you can never forget the play that started that national championship route of Alabama.
Yeah.
That he, that pick six that really got it all started.
Yeah.
And then it was just a Clemson dunk on Alabama fest from then on out.
Yeah, absolutely. That play will forever be in Clemson lore.
Yeah.
I said two-time national champion, but I remember he was a freshman in the 2017 class. So he just had the one, and then he made another national championship game. But decorated career, all ACC cornerback, and now he's an all-pro caliber cornerback in the NFL. Yeah, you definitely got to have him on the list. All right, my next guy. This one's. I'm trying to choose. I think both of them are still going to end up getting mentioned, but I'm going to go back into the day. I'm going to go with Donnell Wolford. I think you could probably argue for a time. I know like a lot of old heads, think of him as the best cornerback that Clemson's ever had. You could still probably make that argument.
I was gonna say him, but yeah, that's a very good pick.
I stole him. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Our list combined me in anyway.
Yeah, I think you got to have him on the list. One of the great late Danny Ford era players, and just a dog out there. One of the best cover corners that Clemson has had. You got to have him on the list.
Yeah, absolutely. Came to Clemson as a running back, actually. So
yes, he did.
Fun fact there for those of you that didn't know. All right, let's see. Who am I going to go with next? Let's see. I'm going to mention a guy just because I really like him. I don't know where he'll end up on the list, but Andrew Booth is one of my favorite cornerbacks to ever play at Clemson. The attitude that dude played with got him in trouble sometimes, but definitely an intense guy on the field. Just like you mentioned before with Mackenzie Alexander, a guy that thought he could cover everybody, and a guy that definitely grew as his Clemson career progressed and got a lot better. He was a lot better when he left Clemson than he was when he first got there. But Andrew Booth, one of my favorite Clemson Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, the guy had so many highlight reel plays.
Just play with a swagger about him,
Yeah, I mean, the one, one of my favorite in terms of just his ball skills, like the one-handed catches or interceptions. The one against Virginia, I think about all the time that in the COVID year, that interception he had against Pitt, where it looked like he literally was flying across the screen to make that interception on that flea flick.
Yeah,
I mean that was a lot of fun. He was a very fun player. So great pick. Certainly is in that conversation, I would say. I'm going to go with a more recent guy too. Really recent, like he just left here. I'm going to go with Nate Wiggins. Maybe it's recency bias, but I think Nate Wiggins, just even this shortly removed from his career, is one of the best corners might be the best corner I've seen play at Clemson. Just in terms of his pure talent and cover ability, there has not been a player quite like Nate Wiggins. His stretch in 2023 is one of the best I've ever seen from a corner. Everybody thinks of the highlight reel, like chasing down Amarian Hampton against North Carolina,
Yes.
and those kinds of things. But like, really, I mean, I've said 2023, but if you go like back to that Wake Forest game his sophomore year, where he got absolutely torched and had the worst game of his career, that after that game on to the end of his career, he was basically unbeatable. Like, teams just would not throw his way. He had so many. He had a lot of crazy like statistics that you could point to, like a passer rating allowed. I think it was like he was allowing like a 8 or something like that passer rating, NFL passer rating throughout his last season. Tons of pass breakups. He wasn't a huge interception guy, but he made some big ones. The pick six against North Carolina in the ACC championship game. He had I already mentioned the North Carolina game. He had multiple big interceptions. The guy was a playmaker,
Yes.
and I think you have to have, and one of the fastest players I've ever seen play at Clemson. That you don't teach that level of speed. He was gifted.
You can't teach it. I mean, the dude he had track speed while wearing a helmet and shoulder pads.
Yeah.
And just one of my favorite things about Nate Wiggins is that dude's ability to just let a bad play go.
Yeah.
And we always talk about that when it comes to cornerbacks and defensive backs in general. Is cornerbacks definitely, in my opinion, one of the toughest positions on a football field. Like, it's not easy to just mimic everything a receiver's doing and get yourself in a position to try to make a play on the ball first and foremost. But you think back to that, that game where he just got obliterated time and time again by Wake Forest, right? And to just swallow that and do what he had to do to progress into the cornerback that he eventually became at Clemson, that's crazy to me because that's not easy, because he got abused on national television, but still came back in that game, as you mentioned, to make that play, right? Just the mental toughness, I think, is one of my favorite things when I think about Nate Wiggins. He's just got a keen ability to just let a bad play go, and I'm gonna just go try to make the next play. That's important when it comes to cornerbacks. All right, I'm gonna go DeAndre McDaniel.
Great pick.
Guy, I think you got to mention, first team All-American, right? In 2009. He was the first guy to do that in a while when he came through. So definitely a guy I think that you got to mention when you're discussing who's going to end up in the top 5. I think DeAndre McDaniel is definitely a guy that got to be talked about.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be a fan favorite, and he through his time, he embodied a lot of what Clemson football was at that time. And obviously he's had a successful coaching career. He spent time at Clemson on staff. I think there's a lot of love. I think he's definitely got to be a personal like fan favorite for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Whew. There's still multiple names swimming in my head. How many are we at right now?
Where are we at now? So we had Mackenzie Alexander, right? We had Andrew Booth. We had
AJ Terrell.
AJ. We had Donnell.
Yeah, Donnell
Wolford. So Mackenzie Alexander, Andrew Booth, Donnell Wolford, AJ Terrell.
Nate Wiggins. And DeAndre McDaniel. So are we at 6?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are at 6.
Okay.
We are at 6.
Cool. All right. Man, okay. I'm gonna go another personal favorite of mine from the championship years, Cordray Tankersley.
Cordray Tankersley, yes.
I think he's got to be in that conversation as well. We really were blessed, as far as just that run we've had of cornerbacks over the last 10 or 15 years. But you got to have him on the list as well. And obviously he ended up winning a championship, so was an All-American doing it. You got to have him on the list. Tons of big plays. Another just great playmaker. Like I don't think the coverage ability, he got beat sometimes, but man, he would make up for it. So I think you got to have him on the list.
Yeah,
and I mentioned, it's funny because with Tankersley, like he had the statistics, and with Mackenzie Alexander, he didn't record a single interception over his career. So It's kind of funny how you look at you look at cornerback play, and it's not always about the statistics when you look at that position, because sometimes teams don't throw your way. Sometimes it's a bounce of the ball, whether or not you get a pick or a pass breakup or nothing at all. So that's still crazy to me that Mac never got a pick.
It's almost unbelievable that he went his entire career with no pick. But they say they pick cornerback to play cornerback for a reason. Can't catch the ball. No, I'm just kidding. All right, last one, and then we're gonna have to try to narrow down this list because it is growing quickly. I'm gonna go Ty Hill, lockdown cornerback, first team All-American. Early 2000s guy, 2002, somewhere in there, 2002.
Yeah.
I think. Let me look so I don't lie to the people.
I always had. I typically had them like off the top of my head. I used to know like the years all these players played.
Yeah. So 2002 to 2005. He was a consensus All-American, finalist for the Jim Thorpe Award, and he was a first-round pick in the NFL draft. So shout out to Ty Hill. All right. So that's our list right now. Now we got to go in and put it in order. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. We got 8 people here.
And people are going to be mad at us because, I'm thinking of names right now, and I see some people have mentioned them in the chat too. That you could make the case should be on the list too. That's the fun part about these lists, is because especially when you look at the defensive end, because it's there's not a lot of separation between these guys.
Marcus Gilchrist, that's a good
Marcus
one.
Gilchrist, absolutely.
That's a great one.
In the conversation, Rod McSwain from
Rod McSwain.
Yeah. Cresden Butler. Man, that's a name I have. Oh, that's an underrated one.
Yeah.
I mean, you really gotta. Cody Sensabaugh. Let's see.
Dang. Darius Robinson.
You've had some names. Bashad Breeland.
Bashad Breeland. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
You've had some dogs, man.
All right. But we can't add to the list because we already got too many people on the list now. And we got to cut 3 off of this list, or 3 that won't make the top 5. So I'm going to list our top 8, if you will, and then we will slowly start whittling it down into some semblance of an order. So we got Mackenzie Alexander, Andrew Booth, Donnell Wolford, AJ Terrell, Nate Wiggins, DeAndre McDaniel, Cordray Tankersley, and Ty Hill. So, with that said, who we got number 1? Got to start at number 1.
That's going to be that's tough.
Yeah.
And I've actually had this conversation with friends before, and I had an answer then, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be a controversial one because they're okay. I'm going to say it.
Okay. Who you got?
My number 1 cornerback for the longest time was Mackenzie Alexander.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was going to say, but who you got?
Nate Wiggins passed him for me.
Really? Okay.
And before y'all come at me, I valued it based on with Mackenzie Alexander. I think obviously there's going to be some bias there because he was on better football teams. I mean, frankly,
Yes.
But as far as like when I watched them play, I was just flat out blown away at what they were doing. I got more of those moments from Nate Wiggins. Like, I can't believe he just did that type of plays. Like, I loved Max, like, attitude. Like, he was one of the toughest football players and just like everything you want in a corner. He was cocky. He would talk trash. Like, I that was what drew me to Mackenzie Alexander. But in terms of just kind of like, wow, like this is special. It was Nate Wiggins. And you can say that's recency bias. You might be right.
Yeah.
But I've thought about this for about I guess it's been like a year now since he left Clemson. So I just feel differently. I can't explain it any better than that. I just feel.
No, I got you. I still got
I watched Nate Wiggins and I'm like, wow, this is special.
I still got Mackenzie number 1. But
That's fair.
We can interchange those. Those are fine. I'm not mad at it. I think I still give Mackenzie the edge, but I do see what you're saying. So we'll go Nate Wiggins 1, Mackenzie Alexander 2. Number 3, I feel like it's got to be Wolford, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I think you can make a case for all 3 of these guys to be 1.
Yes,
like
Donnell Wolford's up.
Can we cheat? Can we do 1A 1? Can we do 1A 1B?
1A 1B 1C.
Yeah.
So we don't have to cut anybody off the list.
Yeah, like because I don't feel good about. I really don't feel good about knocking any one of these 3. I feel like these are like the 3 best that I've seen. Well, I didn't see Donnell Wolford play.
Yeah, but you can go look.
Yeah,
at his stuff and just look at his stats. Like, and the real deal.
I think you got to have him on the list. You got to have him in that conversation.
I mean, he was a 2-time first-team All-American, right? Like, that dude was
like in terms of accolade. Yeah, he's arguably the most he's probably the most decorated on that list. So it's like, but we got to put him in order. We just okay. Well, you know what? We'll do this because I just recently came to this Nate Wiggins conclusion for the sake of clarity, for the sake of kind of what's closer to consensus.
Right.
Let's put Mackenzie Alexander 1. We'll do Nate Wiggins 2, and then Donnell Wolford 3. But in my personal feelings, Nate Wiggins slightly passed Mackenzie Alexander.
Yeah.
And this is just a recent.
But truly, like, those 3 dudes could be 1A, 1B, 1C. Like, no doubt about it. Like, I think those 3 are very close when it comes to ranking the best cornerback. And a lot of it is, like, what era of Clemson did you come from, right? Like,
Yeah.
We didn't get the luxury of seeing Donald Wolford play, right? Like, yeah, we can go back and watch highlights and, all the ACC championships and the great record Clemson had while he was there and the two-time All-American, but we can't give it justice because we didn't get to watch it, right? It's one of those things. It happened before I was born, unfortunately, right? All right, so 1, 2, and 3 we got. I will read off the other ones we have on the list that are not yet ranked. All right. So AJ Terrell, DeAndre McDaniel, Cordray Tankersley, Ty Hill, and Andrew Booth.
Okay. All right. Number 4. Oh, man. Okay. I don't know. Man, I don't know who to put number 4. Let's think about
You
this.
go.
I want to go Ty Hill. Either I'm between Ty Hill and AJ Terrell. Where are you?
Yeah. And then you got DeAndre McDaniel in there too.
Yeah. Oh man.
Those three are tough. I think it's honestly, I'm gonna go AJ Terrell.
Yeah, you get the national championship.
Yeah. Yeah, that beatdown of Alabama, he was crucial in that game, and helped lead that defense to another national championship. Although it didn't go great against that LSU squad, but again, that was a different beast that they ran into. And then you got to go. And then I think it's between Ty Hill and DeAndre McDaniel.
I'm going to go Ty Hill. I'm Ty Hill. But yeah, I think I'm Ty Hill.
So that would put DeAndre McDaniel at 6, I think. So first out of the top 5. I don't feel good about that, but it kind of is what it is at this point. And then you got Cordray Tankersley. I think he would be 7. And then Andrew Booth will be last at 8.
Yeah, I think so.
That's what I would do with the list that we got here. All right, so
oh my God, we got. And Garnet mentioned Trayvon Mullen. How did we?
Oh my God, he should be in there over Andrew Booth.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I personally,
No.
I'd have Andrew Booth over Trayvon Mullen.
Well, he could be 9 then.
Yeah, he can be 9. But I think Trayvon Mullen's got to be there too. That's tough. He said Jamar Chase made me see. Well, Trayvon Mullen wasn't on that 2019 team. He left after the championship team. It was your starting corners that year were that was AJ Terrell, Darian Kendrick. You had You had Mario Goodrich in there. Who else was on that team? You would have still had Andrew Booth was a freshman that year.
Yep.
He didn't play all that much. Your starting corners were AJ Terrell and Darian Kendrick.
Yes. And we got cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Booth. It seems like Booth's way too low, but I mean, like,
I don't know where you put him because
he could go to 7 above Cordray Tankersley, but I mean, I don't know. Like, it's tough. It's tough.
And you know what? And while we're at it, James mentioned, DeAndre McDaniel was the safety, so we honestly can take him off the list. And he played. He also played linebacker too. He played all over the place. But I guess we can.
Yeah.
So we'll take out DeAndre McDaniel. We'll save him for safeties.
Yeah.
Let's do that. That way we can slide Trayvon Mullen in.
All right. So we'll put Trayvon Mullen on the list. Okay. And then so who we putting? Where are we putting Trayvon Mullen? Right now we got 1 Mackenzie Alexander, 2 Nate Wiggins, 3 Donnell Wolford, 4 AJ Terrell, 5 Ty Hill. And then we got.
I thought about Justin Miller too, but Justin Miller was more of a he was certainly more known for his return ability. He was a good corner though.
Return specialist, yeah.
Yeah. He was a good corner though, but I feel like when we think of him, when I think of Justin Miller, I think of his special teams plays. So I would say if we do like a top 5 returners in Clemson history, which I think we could, he would be on my list for sure. Yeah. Arguably, he would definitely be in my top 3, maybe top 2.
No doubt. Okay. So we got 1 through 5. I don't think we're changing 1 through 5, right?
No.
So we got to rank 6, 7, and 8. Andrew Booth, Cordray Tankersley, and Trayvon Mullen. Six, 7, 8. So who are we putting at 6?
Okay, wait. Trayvon Mullen, Cordray Tankersley, Andrew Booth. That's who we're between.
That's the 3, and we got to rank them 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Okay, I'm gonna go Tankersley, Booth, Mullen. I'm sorry, no. I'm gonna go Tankersley, Mullen, Booth. I'm gonna give Tankersley and Mullen the edge for national championships. Okay. And Trayvon Mullen was also, I believe, wasn't he the defensive MVP in the championship game? I feel pretty sure because AJ Terrell had the pick 6, but Trayvon Mullen also had that pick that he returned. It was the over, and he also had I think he also had a sack in that game, so he had a really great game. So I'm gonna go Tankersley, Mullen, and then Booth at 8. I don't feel great about that, but we got to come up with an order. What are you thinking?
Right. So 6, Cordray Tankersley, right? 7,
Mullen,
Trayvon Mullen, and 8, Andrew Booth. Okay. All right. So there we go. It's locked in. Here we go. Top 8, I guess, if you will, but top 5, right? According to me and Jordan, for best Clemson cornerbacks of all time, 1, Mackenzie Alexander. 2, Nate Wiggins. 3, Donnell Wolford. 4, A.J. Terrell. 5, Ty Hill. And then honorable mentions, we got number 6, Cordray Tankersley. Number 7, Trayvon Mullen. And number 8, Andrew Booth. So there you have it.
Yeah.
That was tough.
That was tough, and I don't feel confident.
I don't feel great. Like
so feel
that
free
may
to
be
cook
the
us.
list that I feel the least great about that we've made so far.
Yeah.
Just because, it was tough. It was a little tougher than I thought it was going to be. But again, we just get up here and we throw names out, and then we rank them. So it's not like we deep dive into stats and all this stuff and do all that stuff before. It's more of just
and shout out the guys
here, naming names that come to our mind when we think about a position group, when we think about Clemson, and then ranking them according to us. So that's how we get to our list. I think it's more fun and organic that way versus, deep diving into the stat books and ranking dudes based off of that. I rather just rank dudes based off of what I remember from Clemson football. So there you have it, guys. There's our 1 through 5 with 3 honorable mentions. So there's your top 5 cornerbacks according to me and Jordan. And let us know what you guys think in the comment section.
Don't feel great about that one, but we gonna let it ride. Shout out to all the ones we missed. Y'all put them in the comment section when this gets cut up or whatever. Give us your top 5. All of that. Yeah,
give us your top 5. Tell us why we were wrong, and who you would take out and who you would put in their place. So look forward to reading your guys' comments when this video gets posted on its own. All right, Jordan, that's the end of the planned portion of the show. We still got 21 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for sticking it out with us. Now it's your time to shine. Get your questions, get your comments in, and we will read and respond to as many as we can before we get out of here. Again, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share the video with anyone out there that you may know that likes to consume college football content. No, they don't have to be a Clemson Tiger fan.
Nope. AJ Terrell got burnt a lot in the LSU game.
Yeah, that was tough. Yeah. That was a bad game.
That was a bad game, but I you can't boil down his career to one game because he was pretty great outside of that.
Yeah, he was fantastic outside of that. John says, once we run out of players to rank, let's do the most favorite Dabo trick plays. Oh God.
Oh. Is this a serious list or are we going ironic?
My mind instantly goes to the
I know what you're talking about. Let's just not even put it into words. But but you know what's funny? Like there's an equal, like you can make a joke list of all the worst, and then you can make a legitimate list of like best, because Clemson certainly had some pretty phenomenal trick plays over the years. I would say my favorite was probably we can rank it later, but the one I think of all the time when I think of like legitimately great Dabo trick plays was the fake punt in the Orange Bowl back against Oklahoma.
Yes,
Christian Wilkins running down the sideline.
Crazy.
That I think of that all the time.
Never thought I would see the day.
Yeah,
where you run a fake punt with a 300-pound defensive tackle.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's a great pass too. Like it was, that that game was a lot of fun. People, that's probably one of the more forgotten playoff games. And it was actually a close game for a half. Clemson was, if I remember correctly, Clemson was losing at halftime, and they ended up winning by like 21 points.
Yeah,
whatever it was.
Yeah, we blew them out in the second half.
Yeah, that was Baker Mayfield, Sterling Shepard. That man, Bob Stoops was still the coach then.
He was.
Yeah, man, that was 10 years ago.
That is crazy. That is crazy that's 10 years ago. That is not real 10 years ago.
Hard to believe.
What a wild time.
Yes, it was. Intelligent Savage, he says, we have 3 reported first-rounders currently on this year's roster: Peter Woods, T.J. Parker, Avion Terrell. I would agree with that. What other Tigers do you see being drafted second or third in next year's draft? Antonio Williams, I think, will be in that conversation. Defensive line-wise, I mean, I think Demonte Capehart is going to be interesting because
he's got a shot. Yeah, he's got a shot to work himself into.
Yeah. If the medicals clear for him and he has a strong, healthy, final year, I could see him working into that second, third round conversation.
Yeah.
And honestly, I felt like he could have been, if he had a full season a couple of years ago, he would have been a first round pick. But I don't know. Let's see who else. He said specifically second or third round, so I can't, I'm not thinking of later round guys.
Second or third round.
Will help. This could be a one and done year for him. Let's see.
I mean, dark horse. What if let's see.
I don't see any. I don't see any other players I feel really comfortable saying that about right now. I think you've got a good amount of Blake Miller. I'm sorry. Blake Miller. I think Blake Miller is in that conversation.
Yeah, he could definitely go second round.
I think those would be my picks for second or third right now.
Yeah, because I don't think Tristan Lay could get up there.
No.
Wade Woodaz, no.
I see Wade Woodaz as a mid, like a fourth round pick type of guy.
Trying to think of who else will be.
I think Khalil Barnes is a 4-year player, so I'm not really thinking about him right now, but I could be totally off base about that, and he has a big year. And
but not
even
that,
then, I don't think he would be super.
We're anticipating it happen, but what if Tristan Smith just has this monster season?
Yeah, I guess you have to. I guess you have to.
I don't know that he would get that high, but he could, if he had a monster year.
Kate Klubnik.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, we're sitting here thinking of everything other than the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, Kate Klubnik, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Kate Klubnik has a really good shot at being in the first round if he builds on what he did last year. This quarterback class coming up is not particularly stronger. I think it's stronger than this year's, but I don't think it's. I think Kate is one of the best in that group.
Yeah, I think if he takes another step forward, puts up similar or better numbers than he did last season, he's definitely right in there in that first, second round.
So, yeah, those would be my picks. I don't really – any other player you mentioned I probably have as more of a mid to late round pick.
Yeah, Tristan Smith would be my dark horse, I guess. If I'm picking one that's unlikely but could do it, he'd be my one.
I have been thinking a lot about Jeremiah Alexander because of the pedigree coming out of high school. Like, what if it just all clicks for him?
Yeah, just has a breakout season.
Yeah. He was flying all over the field in the spring game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You think he would leave after one?
He could.
I mean, he could, yeah.
Very well could.
Yeah, it's possible. It is possible.
Yeah, but those would be my picks. And then the guys I would feel comfortable like I view as like potential first round picks. I mean, some of them are not eligible. Your TJ Moores and Bryant Westcoast are true sophomores, so obviously they're not in that conversation. But I think they'll be in that conversation 2 years from now. Yeah. Anybody else? I don't see anybody else that.
Paulie's got a hot take. He says Adam Randall goes pro and is drafted in the second round as a running back. That would be wild.
I hope
it happens.
I hope so.
Because if that happens, that means he had a monster year, and that bodes well for the Tigers. So, plus, I hope it happens just because I would love to see Adam Randall, succeed, especially with all the injuries that he's dealt with at Clemson, and just the team player that dude is. He's had lots of reasons to, I guess, feel a certain type of way, or of pout and sulk and be upset about the hand that he's been dealt, but he has never done that. All the way through the injuries to last year getting the start in the Georgia game, not doing well, falling down the depth chart, and he was still right there for all his teammates. And then, making the transition to running back in the playoff game because we needed him, and then transitioning permanently this spring. So the dude is just like the epitome of a team player. So I would love nothing more than to see him have that success.
Yeah, that would be something. I guess he's a wild card too. Because what if Adam Randall just has a big year?
I mean, yeah. What if he just turns into a beast out there that can't be tackled? I don't know.
We mentioned Cade.
Yeah, Cade for sure. We forgot about him for a while.
Yeah. I was just thinking of so many other people, and I was like, wait, our quarterback. I guess that's how we haven't had great quarterback play in a while.
Yeah,
we just completely forgot we have a good quarterback.
Yeah, Cade's definitely gonna be up there, first, second round, no doubt.
Intelligent Savage asks, who has the greater game versus LSU on offense and defense in your way too early final score in the Valley? Ooh. Offense, defense, final score.
So, best game on offense, best game on defense, final score.
Defense, I'm going to go TJ Parker just because I think breaking in 2 new tackles.
I was going
really the edge rushers in general, but I'm just going to go with TJ Parker because obviously established your best pass rusher. Offense, I would say a really big opportunity.
Huh? What was that?
I just said I think he has a really big opportunity.
So. Oh, yeah. No, I think he's definitely the one. Antonio Williams on offense. I mean, I could say Cade Klubnik, but I feel like that's a cop-out.
Yeah. I'm going to go Cade Klubnik and TJ Parker. I mean, I think they go as, I mean.
Yeah, the offense goes as they go, or the offense and defensive, respectively, go as they go. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Score prediction? Let's see. I don't even know what the spread is right now. It's probably pretty close.
I think it's two. I think it's been sitting at 2.5.
2.5.
Clemson minus 2.5 for a good bit.
Clemson's getting the nod for playing at home.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I guess as it stands right now, I mean, I think Clemson is I feel like they're the better team right now.
Yeah,
they're at home.
I'm going to
LSU has a ton of new pieces that could end up being really good for them, but are they going to be a finished product week one? I doubt it. I'm going to go for now. I might feel differently as we get closer to the season. I'd probably go Clemson 34, LSU 20, 34. 24. Sure. Why not? Clemson 34, LSU 24.
I'll go a little bit closer. 31-28, Clemson.
Could be a close game. I mean, that has potential to be a great game. But
I'll stay close with the score prediction. So 31-28. But yeah, I think right now Clemson looks to be the better team. And you're playing at home. And it's going to be a huge game. So we'll see. But
Jay says, are you taking into account the dreadful slow starts? Well, the hope is we're past
that. The hope is you have a very veteran team that has been there before and not started well. So you would hope that they would be much more prepared for what they will be facing, because they played a similar game last season to start, and it did not go well. So you would assume that all that veteran leadership that came back and that we're so excited about would be able to create a bit of a different start.
And you're at home, and
you're in the Valley.
It's just
and it better be a
home opener in the Valley since.
It better be a night game. So
since 2019, I think so.
What?
Clemson hasn't had a home opener since 2019.
Yeah.
Because COVID year, you opened with Wake Forest. That was on the road. I remember because game day went to Winston-Salem because they were just happy football was back.
Yeah.
2021.
ESPN was just like, oh, God. Thank God we don't have to go bankrupt because college football
exactly.
not being played.
2021, that was Georgia, right, in Charlotte. 2022 was Georgia Tech in Atlanta, right? That was at Georgia Tech, right?
Yes, that was away. That was at Georgia Tech, yes.
2023 at Duke. 2024.
Oh, God. 2024. Georgia. Neutral site, Georgia, yeah.
So, yeah, you haven't had a home opener since 2019.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There's everything about this game favors Clemson right now, as it from the the continuity from the previous season, home field advantage. Both teams have not been great in openers, but Clemson has not lost a home opener in a long time. So like, you have to hope this is different for the reasons I just mentioned. But then again, who knows? We could be talking about this after the game and like, wow, can't believe Clemson only scored 7 points in the first half or 10 points in the first half. And they were down. And I mean, it wouldn't shock me, but I believe this is different for those reasons. David Larry says, any thoughts on kicking game leaving the spring game? I mean, no, I think you have a phenomenal kicker. You block for him. You should be okay in that department. So, yeah.
Now, punter's a different story.
Punter is a different story. Yeah.
Don't feel good about punting. Think we should probably go get somebody. But I don't think we have to worry about kicker. He's good as long as we can figure out what we were doing wrong as far as protection last year.
Yeah. Dylan with a BYOG or sell. Actually, John had one earlier too. I'll get to that one after. Clemson starts the first drive with a trick play.
No. I'm selling.
Imagine. I like against LSU.
If they start with a trick play, that worries me. That worries me a lot. Because
I hope not. You're at home. The crowd is feeding. Like the crowd is already getting you. Just run your normal offense.
Why do we feel like we need to generate a trick play? Like that to me,
LSU's defense.
That to me would signal that the coaching staff thinks that we're not good enough to beat LSU. Straight up.
Which
so
I definitely don't
manufacture some sort of weird play and advantage to get it going.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, that screams desperation if you're running a trick play on the first drive.
Just run your normal offense.
Yeah, just run your offense. Clemson's good enough. Look at the wide receiver core. Look at that experienced offensive line. Second year again, back with Matt Luke. All the strides that Cade Klubnik made last year. Like, you're good enough to just line up and run your offense. So I hope that doesn't happen. So I'll sell.
Yeah. John had a BYOG or sell earlier. He says Dabo is doubling down on his recruiting pitch about the life prep and culture focus over money. More commits in the past few classes seem to be calling those out as reasons visitors too. I mean, yeah, Clemson has certainly leaned into what in this era of college football, what Clemson has done is lean even more into what they've been preaching.
Yeah.
That's just you have to set yourself apart. And what we've harped on was okay, yeah, that's cool and all, but you still got to have the money. Yeah, the money aspect has got to be in place.
Yes. And I think Clemson is kind of uniquely set up for what college football is kind of transitioning into if we can get guardrails on NIL and stuff, all the stuff we were talking about earlier in the show, right? Because if money is relatively the same, or you can, just like me and Jordan, what we've said on the show several times, if Clemson could get into the ballpark as far as money goes, yeah, all that other stuff that makes Clemson different, that's going to sell recruits and their families on coming to Clemson over, a little bit more to go to this school, right? But you still, to your point, Jordan, you still got to be in that ballpark of the money, right? You got to be in some sort of, the same stratosphere. And then you can sell the Paul journey. You can sell the financial literacy. You can sell, the institute
graduation rates, the tutoring,
the graduation rate, and you can sell, the micro internships, and you can sell the media building that they have over there to use for their individual platforms and to create content, right? Like you can sell all those things, but you got to be in the same stratosphere when it comes with the money. You don't have to outbid people. You don't have to get into bidding wars, but you got to have a competitive NIL and then let Clemson sell itself like it always has before, and you'll be just fine in recruiting. So I think Dabo leaning into that is exactly what Clemson should be doing. Because at the end of the day, if that house settlement does come down and it does turn into, everybody's getting this 20 million-ish plus or minus whatever it's going to end up, right? Plus NIL has to be more legitimized now. And let's say that third party that they were talking about that's going to have to vet the NIL deals actually happens. That's probably going to take some sort of federal intervention with antitrust laws and stuff like that, right? But say that happens, then it's going to be a much more competitive space, right? And that stuff that Dabo loves to talk about and what he, builds his program around is going to help sell Clemson and get them across that finish line much more frequently than some of the other players out there, especially if the money becomes mostly even across the board, which is where I think it should be.
Absolutely. Talking about the Duke opener, yeah, that was a time I like to forget.
We did. For those of you that didn't watch it, or maybe you didn't know about the channel or the shows that me and Jordan did at the time, we still do them now. We do post-game lives after each Clemson game, and that particular one was not only on our channel, this channel right here, but it was also simulcasted on the main channel over there with Mark Rogers, and that was a miserable night for me and Jordan.
Yes,
that was a tough one. We got tore up for the entire Clemson Duke game, and then for another 2.5 hours post game after that. It was rough.
I don't even remember what I said. We both looked like in a state of shock, like when we were just talking. We had this empty, but what just. I'm not going to go back and watch it, but I remember how I felt in that moment. I don't remember what I said. I just remember the emptiness inside. I was like, I can't believe we just watched that.
Yeah.
The result that none of us imagined, even losing, potentially losing to Duke in an upset was we didn't really think it was going to happen, but we were I
remember that year it was kind of popular to pick that game.
Yeah.
Clemson's going to lose to Duke. And I remember thinking, what are these people talking about? There's no way that's happening.
Yeah.
And boy, was I wrong.
Man.
Because it happened in miserable fashion.
I think that was rock bottom.
Yeah.
In terms of the slide that Clemson has, been on or they went on.
Yeah.
I think that was not even losing to South Carolina in 2022 was miserable. But I think in 2023, I don't think there was any I don't think the fan base collectively had felt that helpless at any other point.
Yeah, I mean, just after that game, again, I don't know what we said in the post game, but there was no explanation for it. It was just I don't know how that happened.
Yeah. The future never looked more bleak than in that moment. Because even against South Carolina the previous year, you were you felt like you gave that game away. It wasn't you got blown off your own field. It was you were up for most of the game and choked it away at the end. And you had some, your quarterback went 8 for 29 and 99 yards. A lot of stuff had to go wrong for you to lose that game.
But then it was, but then you went on and the ACC championship game happened and Cade played the way that he played.
Yep.
So it was exciting, right? And then, we went and played Tennessee in a bowl game and got manhandled. But you still had hope, right? Going into that offseason.
Yeah.
And we just never anticipated it going quite that way.
28-7, man.
28-7. And it continued the rest of the season. Remember, we didn't have one single game without a turnover all season that year.
One of them might be my least favorite Clemson team. Well, like there are some teams you could probably argue were more frustrating. Really? Well,
I don't know.
I mean, 2021, you won 10. That was rough, but because the offense was so brutal.
Yeah, those were just painful games to watch. Yeah.
2010 was certainly miserable, for sure. I mean, you have to there's not many seasons in my lifetime where I was like, wow, that was just a miserable season.
Yeah.
Like 2023, 2023 was not, I guess objectively, I mean, you went 9-4. So it was like,
I still question how we won 9 games that year.
And we won our last 5 games, man. Like, I don't know. That team was so frustrating, but I think we'll probably look back on that team and realize in a lot of ways the pains of that year led to some of the changes that we've seen.
Yes.
And you got to say, okay, well,
I guess it was worth it.
I hope we can say that.
Hopefully at the end of this season, we can look back and be like, okay, we needed that.
Yeah. I get the most miserable Clemson teams to watch in my lifetime. I would probably say where I just felt like it felt like a chore to watch the games was probably 2023, 2021, 2010. Those are the ones I can remember. And then you could probably say, I want to say 04. 04 was miserable, at least the start of that year, because if I remember, 2003, you had went on that run at the end of the year. You beat Tennessee in the Peach Bowl.
Yep.
And then I think you started 1-4. You lost to Georgia Tech. You lost to Maryland.
Terrible.
I think those are probably the 3 worst, not worst Clemson teams. Well, 2010 certainly was, but those were the 3 most disappointing, frustrating seasons I think of my lifetime. But I don't remember 2004 that well. But I'm just speaking objectively. I don't know. Some of you guys can probably corroborate or agree or disagree. Intelligent Savage, Amari Adams, D tackle, has a surprising awesome impact on this LSU game. What do his numbers look like for a player? The game honors if it happens for him. I mean, if he's playing defensive tackle, I imagine statistically it might not jump off the page at you, but if he is in that rotation for that game and he is making an impact, you got to be pretty good. It's hard as a defensive tackle to get that kind of love, because a lot of it is statistics based. But he's a guy I think will be able to play for you this year.
It's a massive individual.
Yes, he is. Dylan says, out of all the guys that decommitted from Clemson, who do y'all see making an immediate impact game 1 for their respective teams? I think my number 1 pick, if you're just talking last class, Tay Harris. That's one I hated. That was probably the one that sucked the most for me. Tay Harris, I think would be my pick. I think he's going to play for Georgia Tech early. I've heard good things about Grayson Littleton too. I mean, that DB class you had committed was so good, and it just kind of fell apart on you. But yeah, Grayson Littleton too I've heard has been playing really well in Alabama spring. So those would probably be my two. I don't know what Isaiah Campbell is. I haven't heard much of anything out of Tennessee about Isaiah Campbell, but I haven't really been paying attention either. So I don't know. But Tay Harris would be my number one pick.
Yeah.
John Sarin says, what are your thoughts on the talk Mark Rogers had about the SEC making a move on Clemson and other ACC teams before the next media contracts? I could see Saiki and ESPN working a deal. Well, I don't know exactly what Mark said, but that would be an interesting twist as far as how all of this plays out. Because, I mean, why wait? Well, I mean, why not wait? Because, I mean, wouldn't you be getting – am I thinking about this correctly? Because I guess if you're saying that, like, ESPN finds a way to rework the contracts to where, like, Clemson would not have to be, pay pay a buyout.
I mean, it would have to be some sort of deal between ESPN, the SEC, and the ACC.
Yeah. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you just wait for Clemson for the buyouts to reduce down to
less than $100 million.
Yeah. And then honestly, you could let Clemson or Florida State, whoever is leaving, pay the buyout themselves, and then you get them for free. Not free, but you get what I'm saying. You incorporate them into your deal
without having to pay anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, and this is just my opinion without, looking into the details of it and all that, I think it's far-fetched that any, sort of deal is made because that would require the SEC to get more money from ESPN because the schools that are currently in the SEC, why would they take less money to give it to Clemson or whatever school would be added, right? They would be having to give money out of their pocket to compensate for that school, right? So unless ESPN was willing to come back to the table and pay them more money by adding a Clemson or a whoever, I don't really see that happening. And why would ESPN do that? I don't know. They already have Clemson and all those other schools that we're talking about under contract in the ACC. So I don't know. I guess looking at it from ESPN standpoint, right? I already have all these teams. Yes, they're in two separate conferences, but I already own the rights to all these teams. So why would I pay to move one team to another conference, because the ACC's money wouldn't decrease, I would assume, because they're locked into a contract until, 2036? So that money's locked in. So you're essentially going to have to pay more money for the same team for them to move to the SEC. That's just kind of how I'm thinking of it right now. I could be wrong, but I don't think any sort of deal happens until the TV right deals for the Big Ten and the SEC come back up again. I think those are your benchmarks. Those are your timelines for when you will see these schools that want to get out of the ACC actually notifying the ACC and paying that buyout fee in order to be available to these other conferences while they're doing their TV negotiations, because those are the keys. That's how you get paid. And without the TV networks willing to go back to the table before the deal's up, which most of them are not going to be willing to do, there's no real way to make it work. So
No.
I think the ACC standing pat until, 2030, 2031, whenever it is, when the Big Ten's deal comes up, and I'm not sure about the SEC. I don't know when their deal comes up. It's probably right around that same time.
Yeah, Tiger Tom, mentions the 90s. Yeah. If we're just talking like worst Clemson teams, quite a few years in the 90s will be on that list. But I was kind of going through like the most frustrating teams to watch. So not necessarily the worst, because like 2023 and 2024, 2023 and 2021 especially weren't necessarily the worst Clemson teams ever. I mean, they won 10 in 9 games.
There was way too much talent on those teams to be as bad as we were.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it was so frustrating. And some of the losses were just like, what even was that? 2022, the ending was frustrating.
Very.
8-0 start was fun. DJ was, actually playing well. He was borderline on some Heisman lists, midway into that season. So, and you had a chance to make it into the college football playoff that year. So I can't really put them on that same tier. Dylan says any year that Kyle Parker was quarterback, always had a chance, but also nervous with every throw. I mean, like Kyle Parker was legitimately good in 2009. Like that Kyle Parker is the Kyle Parker I choose to remember. 2010 was, it wasn't just him. Like that was just not a good team offensively. They were just not very good. You had some pieces. That was DeAndre Hopkins' freshman year. You still had Andre Ellington. I mean, you had a couple of Dwayne Allen, like and Brandon, not Brandon Thomas. No, Brandon Thomas was on that team, wasn't he? He was offensive line. I'm thinking of oh God, the second tight end. What is it? Okay, it's the name is going to come to me. And David Lowry says, Orange Bowl blowout, worst game of the Dabo era. Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, I mean, it's right. If it's not one, it's two. Like objectively, the Florida, the home loss to the 51-14. In 2013 was bad.
He's talking about the West Virginia.
Yeah.
That was. But hey, look what came out of that.
Yeah.
Brent Venables.
That one certainly is easier to stomach, knowing what it led to. But,
it brought us a decade of, Brent Venables and elite defense. So, that was brutal. But hindsight, it's not so bad.
Yeah, Arthur says, if you think 21 was bad, go look back at 98. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, in my lifetime, we've been pretty blessed. Like, Clemson hasn't.
Blessed. Yeah.
Clemson, the only time Clemson has missed a bowl game was when they self-imposed a bowl game, at least in my lifetime.
Because of the Clemson missed South Carolina brawl. Yeah.
Yeah, after the brawl. So
that was crazy. My goodness. Wow.
So, like, Clemson has been bowl eligible every year of my life.
That's crazy.
That's Not many, not many
That's a heck
teams
of
get to say
a
that.
stat. There ain't very many fans out there that can say something like that.
Yeah. So, been kind of spoiled. Even like when you include the Tommy Bowden years, like you were never bad. You were always competitive. You were, never fielded a bad team under Tommy Bowden. And then obviously we know what happened with Dabo. So,
yeah.
Let's do a couple more and then get on air. Thank you, David. Brandon Ford. I don't know why I was thinking Brandon Thomas. I was thinking Brandon Allen. I was like, what am I doing? I put together Dwayne Allen and Brandon Ford.
Just combining players.
Yeah. Tiger Tom says, I think new bottom line exit money, I think $75 million with the outcome of the lawsuit. Would that not a speed up in ACC exit by Clemson FSU at all? I mean, it would slightly because it drops to 75 million.
It drops every year.
It drops every year. So the final, so it's not 75 million right now.
No. It's like
160. What is it? 150?
Yeah, it's like 150, 160.
And it drops like what, 18 million each year?
It drops 18 million per year from now until it gets to 75 million, and that's the floor.
Yeah. So it's not 75 million right now, but it slightly speeds up a potential exit for, like, it won't be 2030. It'll be what, 2031?
Yeah, like 2030, 2031 timeframe, somewhere in there is when it drops below the $100 million mark, which would, and that also lines up with, like I said, the Big Ten renegotiation of their TV revenue. And then I think the SEC is shortly behind that. So you would get out for a pretty reasonable fee at that point. And keep your TV rights and all that other stuff. So, yeah, Clemson's going to stand pat with what they got until there's other options out there.
Absolutely.
And right now they're probably just saving money to eventually pay that 75 or whatever it ends up being. Based on the time frame, $1 million buyout. But you got 5 or 6 years to put that money away.
Yeah,
or find a way to generate that money. So,
an Intelligent Savage, he says top players coming to the ACC from the transfer portal and top players are leaving the ACC from the portal. Has the ACC as a conference gotten better or worse by way of the transfer portal, in your opinion? That might be one we have to put a pin in, because I would need to think about
I'd have to look at who all is transferred and who is like I don't know right off the top of my head. But like say for instance SEC players that transfer in the spring portal season, they can't transfer to another SEC school. So I don't know if the ACC has that same rule.
No,
I don't think they do.
No, they don't. But I'm trying to think of top transfer. My brain is fried. It's 10:30. We'll put a pin on that one and answer it next week.
We'll talk about that next week.
So I had to put a reminder.
Let me write that down.
But I think that's going to do it for us tonight. David mentions Brad Brownell. Yep, killing it in recruiting. Added another big man. Yep, got Blake Davidson, Nick Davidson's brother, kind of a deal. Like you got Blake in order to get Nick. So smart move by Brad. And obviously you also added what's his name? The guard. Is his last name Johnson? What is it? He has a fun name. Like you have, I think you're only down to one scholarship spot now. Like it's probably going to be reserved for another guard. So Brad has done a good job addressing, the needs in the portal. We were talking, just a month ago, we were like, oh my God, we don't have
a whole new team.
We're not going to have a team next year.
All we got is 3 dudes left.
But yeah, like I said it before, if there's one thing I trust Brad Brownell to do is to go find some, find guys that can play in the portal.
Yeah, he's proven time and time again to be able to do it. So, we'll just see what this team becomes. He's got the pieces now. Now you got to go to work and see how they gel and, what ultimately they're going to become. But it's pretty much a brand new team.
Yep. You get RJ Godfrey back for some familiarity out of the portal.
Yeah.
And the true freshman, the talent, you got some young pieces that you've recruited out of the high school ranks that you're really high on. But it's going to be a whole new team. Like Dylan Hunter is basically like, he's just like, wow, I'm playing with completely new guys. But can't wait to see how this team, kind of comes together. And we'll see what Brad decides to do with the final scholarship spot. So, yep, that's gonna do it for us tonight. Thank you guys so much for listening. We just hit that 2.5 hour mark. So if you haven't already, please hit that like button for us, and make sure you guys are sharing the show with other Clemson fans as we try to grow our audience. It's always harder during the off season because
this is when it slims
college
down.
football is just not at the forefront of everybody's minds right now. But thank you guys. Thank you, degenerates, for sticking with us even this late at night. So, again, we greatly appreciate it.
All right, guys. That'll do it for us. Until next time, I'm TPC. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.